All right, it's January 27th. I'm going to call the meeting to order. First order of business is to salute the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Public input. Do you have any public input? Review of the minutes. Minutes.
I have nothing.
I have no minutes yet.
You need these?
I've got them in here somewhere.
Yeah, I don't see them.
So the minutes for January 13th, 9 a.m.
Look good to me.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. First appointment, Steve Wingate.
Come on down.
Mirror Lake Easement warrant article. I got this somewhere.
Thank you, sir.
So they've signed this letter of intent. You're gonna sign it at some point, I'm sure. And you convinced the budget committee to allocate $12,000 of our Harmon tax money to your project.
And I'd like to
Revisit it.
get the selectmen to endorse it. I've learned some more about the NRCS options.
Okay.
There are two important things. One is that there's a standard that they don't accept applications for land that's been purchased that hasn't been owned by the owner for more than a year. And that's to prevent people from using this program to help them buy the land. In other words, it has to be able to be established. You can apply to have that not
Waived.
Yeah, waived, and I've been assured that that would work on this case because we already had that property targeted for conservation, and the property owner didn't know about that and didn't find out until, after they actually made the purchase. That's when they were approached. So they think that'll fly, but that's another step. And then the other thing is that our consultant participation would not be compensated as it would in the ARM and the LCHIP program. So I've informed Rick Vanderpool that whatever services we use him for on this has to be carefully controlled.
Since we're spending town money.
Huh?
Since we're spending town money on it.
Yeah, it wouldn't come back like, our fund and the LCHIP fund, you can apply for those, it's not guaranteed that you get it back, but we've had a good track record on that. So I think there's a very good chance that the 12,000 approach really, in the long run, doesn't cost the town anything. So, and I would agree that that Conservation Commission would make a decision on which way to go before town meeting. So if you'll back the 12,000 proposal, then, and it looks like NRCS is the best deal for the town and the landowner, then I'll make a motion to either table the warrant article or cut it back to whatever we think the cost is going to be to go through the NRCS option.
So what the NRCS would do would be to refund us money that we've invested in the project?
NRC does not do that.
Oh, they don't do
That's,
that?
And I think to be competitive, we still want to use our consultant to develop some of the numbers. They have a whole rating system, you know, to pick which ones they're going to fund. And we need to have like the number of wetland acres and how many acres and how it fits into that ownership. And all of that would, all that information that's available there would, written up properly, would bolster the case, make us more competitive. And I think we'll know in a month how competitive we're going to be. They know, you know, they'll give us good advice on that. But right now I want to focus on the L-chip, the traditional method. We've used it before. We know how it works. There aren't any questions other than, I think the biggest question that I want to answer on that is how much money is in the ARM fund. And it goes by watersheds. So it's just, you can't even, not even a county or a town or anything else. It's the Winnipesaukee watershed. That's how the money is allocated. So it all depends on how much money they've taken in the last year in the way of wetland penalties as to how much is actually in that fund. And I think we can find out. We found out the year before last. And we also know that last year there wasn't a lot of money in that fund, so it didn't look like a great option. And if it doesn't look like a great option this year, and NRCS does, then I think that's the way we go, and I'll make whatever modification in the warrant article to make that happen. And if it doesn't look like we need a lot of Rick Vanderpool's time, then we can take that out of our current budget and just do away with the warrant article altogether or table it.
Well, before you get up at town meeting, I think we'll have another talk about strategery, as George W. put it.
Yes.
I mean, maybe that we don't want to make that motion at town meeting if it's not a solid deal going forward. We might want to just leave it alone.
Well,
The worst case scenario is a certain amount of money moves into undesignated fund balance, so it's not as if I'm not talking.
It's not fading.
Right.
An enormous
The
amount.
town doesn't lose the money,
Yeah.
right? It's just, we collect an additional whatever it is in
Right.
I assume
taxes
they
to
come back
fund
early
it.
in March and tell you what, where things are or what
Right.
I know, and
Yeah, then we can make a decision on it.
So, I have a couple of questions. These people actually own the property now, is that right?
That's correct.
They've executed a purchase and sale and taken title.
Yep.
The other thing is, this letter of intent has a big blank in the first line. I don't understand that.
I think that's, what they did was take, there are different styles of these letters of intent. Rick
Right.
Vanderpool found this one for us. I thought it had the right language in it, so we sent it down to him. He lives in southern New Hampshire somewhere, in Newport. Anyway, and he signed it and then scanned it and sent it back. So I think we're gonna do a final copy, probably through his lawyer, when he gets up here sometime. That's what they did. The way that turns out, their names are after that comma. That's what's supposed to be in that line.
Right.
And I guess they didn't know how to edit that out, or possibly Luke Vanderpool did that. I don't know, but the right information is there.
And they have to make up their mind what piece they want to separate out.
They know what piece they want to separate out. We know where the boundary would be. It'll eventually have to be surveyed,
Right.
and it'll have to go through planning board, but none of that needs to be done to make the application. The
So you don't
application,
need a completed survey to do your application?
before anybody would issue the money, they want everything done.
Right.
And the landowner would be responsible to do the survey.
Sure.
But he has a surveyor lined up. hopes to have that done early in the spring, as soon as the snow's gone. Everything is in place to make this happen. It's the deadline for getting the applications in that's a problem. If you look at our experience in the Great Meadow, we did a lot of things between the time when we were actually notified that we were getting the grants and we actually got the money. We have the money now, we just still waiting for Rick to have time to organize the closure.
Well, let's make sure that when you sit down to write this final letter that's got codify all this stuff, that you inform them of deadlines that you know are gonna come up, so that they don't wait to go to the planning board until next September, and then all of a sudden it's 2022 before we make this happen.
That's why I say I'm more comfortable with the L-chip and ARM,
Yeah.
because we have experience with that.
Mhm. So is it your intent to pursue all avenues simultaneously, or do you?
Yes. I mean, the only thing I'm pursuing on the ARM L-chip thing is what's in the ARM fund.
Right.
If it's a small amount, then I'm gonna jump back on the NRCS
Yeah.
idea. And
Yeah.
even if we don't have an answer as to whether that's accepted or not, we're probably looking at the actual compensation to the landowner to buy the easement is gonna be somewhere between probably $120,000 and $180,000. So 12,000, even if we didn't get any compensation for that, it's only 10% of what the cost is of doing the project. So I think that's a pretty good investment. 10% for 90%. But we're very likely to get some, if not all, of that 12,000 back. And it's not guaranteed to spend all 12,000, that's just our estimate. It's a pretty round number.
Okay. You had a question?
Yeah, just when you mentioned a date and going into 2022, it made me think of the warrant article, which I had a question for you folks was, I know we made it non-lapsing, but we had to give it a date to go through, and it's currently written as December 31st of 2021. And I think you had mentioned initially it might take 2 years. I thought maybe,
Normally
No.
non-lapsings are 3 years, right?
oh, I don't know, to be honest with you. It's just a suggestion that
Right.
Leanne gave.
My recollection is that non-lapsing is 3 years.
And
We can make it shorter, but why would we? I mean,
So
the
maybe-
whole idea is to have this money available and not have to keep reappropriating it.
Okay, we can edit the warrant article, say December 31st of 2022 then. That was kind of a thought I had when you were talking about dates.
Okay. So the budget committee voted the other night for the $12,000 that you're asking for. We had approved $3,000. I've got the MS 737 that I'm referring to. So I'm gonna make a motion that we increase the Mirror Lake Conservation Easement warrant article, which is numbered 4901.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 6.
Okay, yep.
From 3,000 that we originally voted on to 12,000.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Before you leave, can I ask you about Ray Everest?
Yeah.
He's a former member that helped you get the website up and running. And it's my understanding that even though he's moved out of town, he still wants to be involved in that.
They call it posting. He's been posting for us.
No.
And so I'm now talking with him about other ways to keep it active. It's the kind of thing that people will stop reading it if it isn't fresh news in there. So you have to keep it fresh.
Now, at the last meeting, Mark Howard offered to write a sample letter, and could the board send that out? So I'll work on that project, okay? It's just a nice way of saying thank you to someone who volunteers this time. It's okay with you, and we'll move forward, okay?
Yep. If that doesn't come through, I can write it.
Okay.
Okay, great, thanks, Steve.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your efforts, sir.
All right, the next item of business is Tyler Phillips here, or is he not here?
Thanks, Joe.
Not yet.
Not yet?
He emailed this morning, said he was coming at 9:30.
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay.
All right, well, we'll go on to the next one. Is Chief Thompson here? No, he's not.
Nope.
Chief Shigori here.
I'm good. He's not.
Dennis Zalembo here.
You know, I'll go home now.
Is he upstairs?
The Budget Committee here.
Cemetery?
All right, we've got a couple of things to sign. Lakes Region Humane Society has got a contract for us to sign for them to be our animal shelter.
Hmm? Okay. I move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's just your signature, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, go for it.
2 signatures. And the validation, initial boundary validation program for the US Bureau of Census. I guess the maps have been checked by Jack.
I'll move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Morning, Tyler.
Hi, Tyler.
Tyler Phillips, he's
Oh.
back with us.
Oh, sorry, I didn't, so hopefully you guys don't want to get on.
So we have 2 things to sign. What his proposal was.
It looks like he has extra copies.
Yeah, I have copies of the report.
Okay, I've got it here. Pictures.
It's essentially the same as the one I sent you. We removed the highlight. Other than that, I did get feedback late after we drafted this from DES. Good news on that. Second.
They
It's
like
essentially
your-
what we
they
use.
like your work.
Well, I don't know. I think we demonstrated that that there was a way to accomplish the project with the least amount of environmental impact for them, and that trying to take the least environmentally impacting approach may also be costly. And so, in the end, I think, well, I'll jump to the punchline. I spoke with them, and they basically said they were fine with option 3, which means presumably they'd be fine with all the options. And further, that they're not going to require grant right for any of the things, nor mitigation. So that's the a front. I like to end on the good news, but that front load of the good news. And I don't know how much time I have. I don't know if you've had a chance to read the report, but
I read it last Friday. I don't know, have you had a chance?
Yeah.
to-
I'm happy. Yeah.
I did a half an hour, so.
Essentially, go through the history of how we got here, but, well, I should revisit actually one thing. So we had started off with this kind of being a repair project, kind of something that I think Jack came up with some ideas that I think had some merit, and it was, building outward and kind of shielding the existing wharf basically from the ice effects. And as time has taken its toll, this process we ran from winter when I first visited a year ago, through last summer and through DES change of staff, and them really not kind of keeping everyone at arm's length and saying, no, we're not going to approve any, and none of these ideas were permittable. Jack, we had a meeting, it was kind of discouraging, and we wrote out someone's retirement, and eventually went up the food chain a little bit during public year and had a nice meeting this summer. And he said, well, we want to work with you guys. We don't want to be impractical, and if you guys can prove to us a little bit that what your kind of back is against the wall, and looking at other options, we're going to be significantly more expensive, and there really is a need to at least expand the footprint out a little bit to make a repair. We'll look on that favorably. At that point in time in the summer, we noticed that a lot of the lagging, a lot of timbers had either further migrated or it's gotten worse. And so doing just a minor repair, while it still probably could be done, it's really a pack. I'm not sure that the DES is on board with the full approach of going outward. Could you get there and hammer back in some of the boards with divers and do a real low-cost approach? Perhaps, but I think there's also some structural issues with the cross tie. So it's kind of how much money do you put into something that's kind of on a decline functionally. So that kind of refined, we saw that this summer, it really refined the options to ones that were, at least in my mind, and again, I don't want to presume the board's goals on this, but it's hard for us to support a repair option where we feel like the costs are really they're out of our range, our ability to estimate. It would be dive work and all that, and really went to three options that were a little more comparable in functionality and longevity.
And those are the options on page 12 of
They
the
are,
report.
yeah, yep. And there's some improvements. I won't say that the fully rebuilding the timber option, fully rebuilding it. We like to think we improve a little bit. We don't just do the same thing and hope to get. So we have some improvements. That option presents a couple to kind of counter the ice, but ultimately there are the timber piles. Do have that ability to rotate, and the design is such that it can snap.
So that's the only option that you say we're not going to have to get a grant, right?
Well, and that so again, this is the final report. However, the information from the state came in post this thing.
Okay.
So of those options, that's the little gift here. Is that of those options, I had presumed they would need a grant and right for either the soldier pile or the sheet pile, and that's what I got word from Rainey late on Friday, saying no grant and right needed. So really that disadvantage of the soldier pile and the sheet pile go away. I think in the end he said, listen, we want to work with you guys. We have these rules, but there's reasons for having people in office, to be able to make
In police work, they call it discretion when they stop your wife for speeding.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
give her a warning.
Yeah. So
Hold on.
He's done.
What?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. It would help to know what he's talking about, and the rest of the people out in TV land, I have no idea what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
We're
Well,
talking about,
everybody in this room knows except me.
we're
Okay,
talking
so-
about the reconstruction of Union Wharf at Pier 19.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
yeah, apologize for that. I just kind of jumped into the meat of it pretty quickly. Couldn't contain myself. Because of DES. So these costs. I want to be clear. These costs I've included. These are very detailed. I've included for instance, the fireboat having to rent a slip for a month and a half when they're out. Erosion control in an off-site place where you have to move the soil to. the moving of soil, moving it back. You know, there's a lot of things that, so they are pretty detailed, you know, so just in terms of the main cost differences, the things that drove costs, fully rebuilding the wharf really would mean taking it out in its entirety, dewatering the area, because you got to put the material back in and to get good compaction. If it's going to be used as it has been for heavy equipment, you really want to dewater that to get compaction in there. So it's really a full rebuild in a dry earthen area. The costs that drove this wharf then were moving the material out, moving it back in, and dewatering, isolating the area from the lake, basically building a cofferdam, pumping it down, and doing the construction in the dry. And that helps you assure also you're getting good seeding of the lagging, the timber. So that's a main cost factor in the full rebuild with timber.
I have a question on that.
Sure. Yeah.
Anywhere within easy driving distance around the lake that they've had the same issue and have done it, that we could go look at?
There is a.
You understand the question?
Yes. There is. Well, I think I do. I guess there is a example of a new sheet where they replaced. And I'm trying to think. I think they had a timber bulkhead over at Mountain View Yacht Club over in Guilford. There's an example there where they've taken, an example of the sheet pile approach to repairing something. But are you referring to a place where they fixed a timber wharf? No, I'm not. But that doesn't, I don't traffic in timber wharfs.
I know replacing and putting the existing footprint, it's 310 plus 20%, and you still don't know what you're going to find.
Well, the 310 includes the 20, just so you know, but yes.
Yeah.
I think there's some unknowns there. That was, in doing the material, we found that it's likely that there was some kind of hardened structure that was put on the lake bed to start, and then again, I don't know if it was built over a series of different builders, but it appears though there was some larger granite blocks or something placed down. The wharf timbers were built up against it, or vice versa, they were placed, but that became the footprint, and then materials put in on top of that.
Well, the lake was much lower before too.
Was it? Yeah.
Before
Yes,
they went
okay.
down on Lakeport.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So that could have been the reason.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
depending on when the wharf
No,
was
it could have been
built.
3 feet lower,
yep,
and it was just, concrete slabs or whatever
yeah,
that was there before.
yep.
And it's like the driveways in front of the fire station when they were redone. There were rocks the size of this table, so they had to go down, but that's the way things were done because the trucks weren't that heavy there.
So the
Yeah.
prices that you've come up with are for the whole wharf?
They're for
Or
the
just
the earthen filled portion, right?
And
Not
the concrete part,
not replacing the concrete part. No, it would tie into that.
tie into that.
We could extrapolate. I've worked with
Let's say
it.
you do a sheet pile.
Mhm.
Is the sheet pile gonna run all the way out to the wooden dock?
It certainly could, but that's not what I priced in here.
Okay.
If we continued to go out that far, I think some of the sheet pile, for instance, option, the sheet pile alone was about $120 for the material installed. All the other costs are staging, and there's a little bit of earthwork and some finish work with the cross ties. So we could extrapolate out if that was of interest, but in my mind, it was still functional, so it was not something I was, if you guys want something that looks consistent, we could do that, but the intent was really more just to replace the failing portion, which is 145 feet long on the south side.
It's not included in this project, but what is your suggestion if and when we decide to dredge out on the right-hand side? That the state seems to be hesitant, right?
They are.
Saying it's going to fill in again.
They are. That's exactly what they said. And I think there's an interesting thing here in that if one might say, well, the reason it's filling in is there's migration of material coming around the bay, the waves, and that's what DES feels because they permitted, I think, twice now dredging of a boathouse entrance.
Yeah, next to a Sims, yeah.
Yeah, and so that would presume that there's some accumulation and migration of sand. They said, you do it, you're gonna be back here in a couple of years asking for it again. Now, one technique to limit that migration is to put gaps through, basically, and that was one of the things we considered was DES likes timber crib wharfs, and maybe they would be okay with leaving a gap between the concrete, so it looks like, they'll look the same, but there'd be water flow through it. Well, that point, now you're just letting the sand migrate through and on the other side. So you might be solving one in a area that's a more marginal tie-up spot and sacrificing what I understand to be the more commonly used and deeper.
When was the last time it was dredged? It was a long time ago.
I don't know if it's been done.
And
And the thing is, I think because of some of the contractors that use it and stuff, some rocks have fallen off barges. So you get a rock that's up and someone sees it, not gonna pull in. So more boat use is actually gonna keep it cleaned up.
well, and the
Boats
other thing
can't
being
get
is that there's not some sort of float valve in the lake that says, okay, the sand can only come this high.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's been that high for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
So if there's truly migration of sand, I would think that it would be inches deep instead
Well, typically, areas that you dredge, it's a maintenance thing. You dredge it, and you have to dredge it again at some point. The material seeks its own level in there and moves around. So you dredge a channel, so you got a place for boats to go. A few years from now, you're gonna have to come back and dredge it again because, and the reason you do it is you want it usable. So while I'm sympathetic to if you dredge it, it's gonna fill back in, we don't know how long the service life is before it needs attention.
It's like Lake Road, same thing.
Right. I mean, the purpose is to make that side of the wharf usable, at least in my mind. And to do that, you have to get a little more water depth. I don't think you have to go way deep for most of the recreational boats around here. So you dredge it and, maybe 15 years you gotta dredge it again. But again, it hasn't been dredged anytime in the last 15 years, right?
Not that I know of.
So,
I mean, one approach could be that if the concern are isolated rocks, those haven't moved there. It's the silt that's moving there. And I think,
Correct.
Jack, to your point, you look down, and most of the material is pretty coarse. Now, it can be coarsened from wave action and washing the fines back out, but
I think some of it's washing off on the wharf as well.
Yeah.
yeah. The time to do it, of course, would be during construction of this. You got all the equipment there.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
And not to belabor the point, but I'm always thinking outside the box. Who benefits from this? It's the people on the islands,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the people who own the store.
Mm-hmm.
And just like in Newington, the big stores down there pay a user fee, and that's one of the reasons why we have a capital improvement plan,
Mm-hmm.
is could they work with us on that, if, for example, one year clean up the rocks,
Mm-hmm.
type thing. And again, it has nothing to do with this project, but I understand there is a connection.
Yeah.
So on your sheet pile design, is that on both sides?
It would be on both sides, yeah. It's 145 feet on the south. It's not equal length there. One side runs all the way to the town's boat ramp, the little boat ramp. So that's about 145 feet, and then you got 110 feet on the other side. So the design would be with sheet pile, be cross ties where you have opposing sheets on either side.
Yeah.
And as you get further back for that last 30 some odd feet would be dead man anchors, which are just a cabled system that ends to a buried
Right.
piece of metal or something.
And how do you propose to integrate that get off your boat area, which you've done well with let's say the sheet pile, staying on that. When you get up to the concrete, we're gonna have to have the same access, but you're not planning on pulling any of those pilings.
Again, I didn't price that in here. I think, again, if you were going to do it, that would be the right timing. But in terms of, you mean the functionality and how, if you have kind of a dissimilar, because don't forget, this sheet piling, if we do it how we're talking about, there's two approaches. One is to just come outside of it and just keep a straight line,
Right.
an average, because the wharf itself wanders a little bit, and can come up with an outside, or running it right tight to the face, which is kind of what we have proposed here. It's, the wander isn't great, but in that case, you would, I guess we could run it, if you wanted to continue it, you could continue it along the front face of the concrete. If you didn't, the surface treatment to cover the sheet piling, I think would still be these 4-foot planks you talked about, basically be like a dock on land, or and that could continue out onto the concrete part. But they're trying to think of how, I don't think there'd be a huge abrupt jog, if you will, in the wall between sheet piling to concrete. I don't think so. I mean,
And
it
what's
works
under
with
the concrete? Is that the same stuff, rubble?
Yeah, I'm sure it's not solid concrete. I'm sure it's filled with walls on the side of it, so slab on grade type.
It's losing a little bit of,
Yeah.
but not. It's not too. I mean, it's not horribly bad.
I mean, the thing with there's pilings alongside the concrete as well.
Right.
And those obviously aren't holding the concrete in, those are just to tie up to.
Right.
So with the sheet piling you propose, I believe there's some 4x6s that come up on the sheet pile to tie off on.
Yep.
Nothing to say that the 4x6s could be in front of the concrete as well. So the
Yep.
transition to jump from the boat is only 4 inches opposed to 14 to 20.
Right. Right.
I think that's what
With
you
the
were
same
thinking.
walkway across the top, right? Because the pilings down there are just for tie-off, they're not
Right.
helping the concrete
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Yep.
I have a question. If we go with option number 3, how long from the first shovel full being removed to the end? Is it
6
2
weeks. I've talked to a contractor who does a lot of sheet piling to try to, shore up my prices and make sure I got things in the right ballpark. And they said, they said with a full, with the soldier piles, they said 6 weeks. The other option, they said 3. Now, I want to take, let's take that with a grain of salt. It may be, it's about half is what they said. The downside of, this contractor is not, initially they were giving me some prices for sheet piling, linear foot, lengths, all that kind of stuff. When I add in, but they show up, do their work and leave. There's some still finishing work. So like some of the carpentry work, and one of the things discussed here to think about is aesthetics. If you guys wanted to put a face on the front of the sheet piling, so it's timber, that's something that's included in this. You see the price there of $230. That would add some time, of course, but they said
Does
3
that-
weeks.
And attaching a facing, does that in any way adversely affect the sheet pile itself?
Well, I'm, if you guys can live with the aesthetics of it, I like the plain sheet pile, because my concern with the facing is if it comes up to the top, to where you're gonna have, and then extends to the water lines, again, it's purely visual, at some point, there's gonna be ice that pushes, and it's gonna push against I would be concerned that it pushes against the sheet piling and pops boards out, which
Right,
you
if
gotta-
the water gets high and it freezes.
Exactly.
It's trapped between
Now,
it, so.
you could foam it, or you could do something to keep that ice from having some, from forming inside there, and it'd all be hidden, you wouldn't see it, but you could use spray foam, you could actually pour flowable fill in behind which would, this thing's playing strong, but it would actually fill that gap, at least the gap behind the sheet piling. But no, you really, the only vulnerability would be a pop.
I'm familiar with sheet pile. I've got a sheet pile wall that's probably 50 years old, and tying up boats to it is not an issue. And aesthetically, I think it's it's utilitarian.
Yeah.
But it presents a uniform appearance to the eye, so it's not it's not decorative, but it's
Functional.
it's no less appealing to my eye than the existing pilings with
Yeah.
boards in behind them.
Yeah.
You know, it's a working wharf, and sheet piles is a good way to face it.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, we had hoped that we wouldn't end up with sheet piling because I was thinking it was gonna be the most expensive when I started talking to them. Amongst the full, again, equivalent repairs or where everything I think we would count on as being functional and there aren't huge differences in functionality. I was surprised that they came back and when they gave me prices on sheet pile, it was really less expensive. And again, the soldier pile is kind of the not too hot, not too cold option, and kind of in the middle. Again, I thought that was gonna be a great solution. They said just too finicky.
It's a lot of work,
Yeah.
and you gotta de-water to get in there, if I remember correctly.
Well, this they said you wouldn't have to, but you'd have to be digging to kind of you want to make sure that the timbers are bedded a foot or two below, and you never quite see what you're working on, so there's a little dive work and.
But we're still having 4x6 tie-off posts.
On,
And the other
yeah,
issue, I'm sure, is damage to boats as they pull up against sheet piling. It's a little tricky when the lake's low or whatever.
well,
So if there has to be some buffer.
that's why people put
Fenders.
fenders on their boats, right? Right.
One thing that they really were keen on, and I thought this was a good insight that I wouldn't have probably thought of till we're in the middle, is that you can hide with a sheet pile wall. You can hide the cross ties
Right.
in the recesses, whereas when you have the thin veneer, if you will, of a soldier pile wall, you don't have many places to
So
hide it.
do the cross ties attach to the sheet pile?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, these would. The suggestion was to shorten up the length of the sheet pile, is to do a cross tie at every sheet, which sounds overkill, but so yeah, basically there would be a cross tie, and it would likely be a epoxy coated rebar or something that is not a cable, and it would go from all the way up each sheet, which are only this,
Right.
so. Which is significantly more than we have now, which is between each of them. So I think it'll be plenty rugged. I don't think there's a problem there. And the beauty of it being hidden, I was concerned we need whalers, which is a kind of
Right.
like a giant washer, a horizontal washer. We don't need those. So yeah, I mean, our prices for the sheet pile wall were around 180, 190 or so. That include, and again, if you guys decided to go with the timber facade, and I have to admit, my prices on, I don't know what local carpenters are getting. This is a little specialized work, so we boosted up some numbers for some of the carpentry work, with it being underwater.
I guess I'm less concerned about I've boated a bit on the ocean and this sheet pile everywhere, and that's what the preferred option is. So I'm a little less troubled by the look of it than maybe other people would be, so I don't think the timber
I agree
cover
with you.
makes any sense.
Yeah.
But I'm more concerned about getting consistency, so it doesn't look like 3 different docks stretched out, sort of Goldbergy and.
That's the charm of it now. Right?
Yeah.
No,
Well, that's a nice way of putting it.
but honestly, I don't think it would be that involved. If you wanted me, I could probably get a price back to extend it, so you guys could make a decision on that. I know
Yeah.
I apologize. This has taken a while to get
Well, we're
to
not
this
gonna
point.
get it on, we're not gonna get it on this year's warrant
No.
anyway.
Okay.
But we need to go through the permitting
Yeah.
and design phase and all the rest of it.
The one thing I'd say with the sheet piles, if it continues out, is the design that they have. We would change a little bit in the cross ties, because with the concrete coming up to the top, you couldn't really bed it. Yet the other thing is, not sure we really need it.
Yeah.
So, at that point, you want some rigidity, and then we'd probably want some tie, but it wouldn't have to be at that frequency.
Right.
So I think we could, if that was of help, I don't see the state having a problem, and we could look at how you could do it uniformly, but certainly I could get you a price for that additional thing, and then we can
Yeah, I
decide
think
what
we
we
just
want
need
to
to
permit.
kind of fine tune the design a little bit so that we're all
Do we need to,
happy about it.
there's a warrant article that's been drafted with no money attached. Do we need to put $10,000 in there to
Well,
cover
I
for
think we're gonna
permitting?
get Tyler to tell us how much
We're-
money we need to put in there.
Well, you guys have already, I believe, set aside some money for permitting for me, so, in design, so I think we're good in the design and permitting piece, and any, structurally stamped plans and all that, that's part of this cost, so I think you have it covered in terms of us moving forward with this for permitting, and then when you decide, I'll get you the price if that's helpful, to extend it out a little further to cover that, and then we
Yeah,
can
at the
move
end of
forward
the
with
day, if
permitting.
we could have one project getting the whole thing
Sure.
done.
Right, down to the wood and then leave the end wood like
And have
it
it look
is.
Yeah.
consistent and
Yeah.
nice, and not have to worry about it for the
And
next
the,
20
and the other
years.
thing, we did talk about, and some more today, but I think just to tie it back is the dredging on that side. That,
Yeah.
of course, requires a separate permit.
Yeah.
Well, no,
That'd be part of a
no, we
project.
could do it under this one. I think the thing we have to be careful of is, we gotta present a unified front that we want that. The state's basically told us they don't want it. We don't want this project to live and die by that other one, yet I think we can keep them separate in the application such that if they said, no, we can't support that, but we can support this repair, you know what I'm saying? So I don't want to, it would be, I'd hate to have to prepare multiple permits for the same area. So
Well, I think we can do a demographic too. I mean, if we present, now we've got 10 more house lots on Plum Island. We present the quantity of use, the reopening of the store, and there's all kinds of mitigating circumstances that make it, we need more room for boats to come and go from our Northern Island population.
Right. And while the indication you got back from DES is, well, that's just gonna fill back in, we don't know
We don't know when the last time.
when
it
the
was
last
done.
time it was
Right.
dredged
They
was,
should
so.
Yeah.
know.
well, and we
Somebody
discussed
ought to
it.
have it.
Well, we discussed this at DES, and we said, well, do you want us to do some kind of look back as to how long it's been since we dredged and how long it took to get there? And
Right.
which is a little bit hokiness, trying to figure out how long and when did it actually arrive at the current level. But I think it's worth reminding what Jack brings up, that I don't want to say that, it's barges losing material, because DES now, this usage is kind of considered a nuisance then. But I think the idea that potentially some of the material may have come out, because again,
Yeah,
that
you can
coarse
see it,
material.
It's coarse, and it's washing out with the more it's
So maybe that's the point. Maybe we could explain to them, hey, listen, we don't even have records of how long it's been. So it
20
could have been
years
30.
anyway.
Yeah.
Very-
So,
Yeah,
so in
But
that
would have had
case,
to get a permit to dredge from DES or Water Supply and Pollution Control or whoever was in business. So it's got to, if there was a
If it was
permit,
done,
If it
right.
it would have to exist. So, and I can't,
Hasn't been done in 14 years since I've been here. So.
well, I've been here for a long
Right.
A
time.
few times.
well, would you guys accept? So if we said, hey, listen, we don't know how long it's been. It's been a long time. We think this material that it appears from the surface, from looking at the surface, that it's a coarse material that might not be migrating there.
It's not moving.
Why can't you permit it once with the understanding that, hey, if it fills back in a couple of years, sorry, guys. I mean,
Shame on us. It
right.
doesn't cost them anything.
right, and it costs you guys far less to do it now than to kind of wait and study and this and that. So
I think you're onto something. Your efforts, his efforts, Renee's efforts, Mr. Cryan's efforts. It's been a positive
Yeah,
situation.
and I'm not letting Grant and Wright go quite that simply. I think we're gonna spend a year putting this project together. We may wanna go to the governor's council and
Yes.
settle it, even though this project doesn't depend on
for
it.
the grant and right.
Just get it
Well,
done.
and quite frankly, that helps both
Public
sides.
service.
Then it's definitive.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing is, I take up his suggestion, however it's worded, cleaning up the rocks and the debris is like, why do we brush alongside the roads? Why do we do ditch work? It's maintenance.
Sure, right.
Well, they'll come
Yeah,
back and
that's-
say the fish like the rocks.
Yeah.
Watch out for that.
Yeah.
Well, so that's, maybe that's again worth a revisit before the application, goes in, revisiting that component. There's also another component which is kind of a no-brainer if you guys want to do the canopies. That's still of interest when we wrap that
That's
in.
an act for effect, so that's, that's, not, it's part of it, but not really, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Is
Well,
that-
just,
I mean, I would put it in the permit.
okay,
But if it doesn't get done right now, we still got 5 years to do it.
sure, exactly.
And the canopy is for what purpose?
Fire department would like it when they come in from an island with an ambulance, with a boat or something like that, just to cover the end of the dock, so when it's pouring or nasty out, they can put a patient underneath it, and just for people to go out and sit.
I see.
It's just an aluminum frame that comes down.
And that has to be permanent?
Yeah,
Yeah, believe it or not. Yeah.
it's amazing on top.
Temporary, I mean, this
Yeah.
wouldn't be a permanent wooden,
Seasonal.
I mean, as
Yeah.
nice as it may look or something, a wooden one there.
And the thing again with the fireboat, we have power at Union Wharf, so at Melbourne Wharf, so we have no problem putting the boat down there.
Okay, all right.
We don't
good.
have to rent a slip anywhere.
There you go.
Yep.
Saving money already.
Yeah.
But the power needs to be put in the new facility.
Yeah, I priced that in.
Power's down
I
there.
priced that, taking it out,
Yeah,
putting
for
it back
here.
in.
Correct, yeah.
I mean, we probably want to want to
Update
put,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I have, that's included in these costs, actually.
Great.
And I guess the other thing I'd also mention is, although it would be a different permit and maybe you want to wait and see, as far as construction costs, if you guys, and again, this may be bigger than the appetite, there may be a savings if you decide to proceed with Lake Wharf too. If you've got the sheet pile contractor mobilized, which might be $15,000 just to get them out here with their equipment. Again, not trying to push that, but that may be something that, just consider that when it would be a separate permit because it's different location.
Well, our road agent does that by scheduling roads that are near each other and with the neighboring town. In Sawyer Road, he saved us $12,000.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So Lake Street, so you can get us a price on Lake Street as well?
I can, yeah, I mean, again, what I'm
We
doing is,
measured that the first time you were out there.
excuse me?
You measured that when we were out
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think in just as far as where it began and terminated, I think we were gonna terminate it at the end before, there's kind of an old boat ramp / looks like a beach, a big sediment deposit towards the end. I think we were gonna stop it there unless you guys want to continue on, but, in the report here, trying to venture into uncharted waters with 2 ships didn't seem to make sense. So we decided, all right, let's learn from this. I have no reason to believe that they would DES would feel any differently about Lake Street than this. So again, it's fine. The savings would be not huge, but there may be some savings if you decide to proceed, and
All right, well, we've got time to
just something to think about.
look at this.
Yeah.
On the dredging, do they still do the 200 yards?
20.
20 yards. right?
20 yards, yeah. 20 yards, over 20 yards is brings it up to a major permit. I suspect this would be a major permit anyway.
Right.
The real thing I want to say, and this that I think is important from a cost standpoint, is we for a long time were trying to avoid getting into a major permit, trying to do what's called a permit by notification, or these lower end permits that don't really require, it's basically fixing something. And the state wanted to make it into something initially that was a new impact, and therefore you needed mitigation. $200, you're paying $200 a linear foot for that, and that's just that on top of management fees and all this stuff. That was a cost of, you're putting that money, it's going to thin air, and you're not getting anything for it. I really think that was a huge success that they said no mitigation, and they said that at the meeting. The grant and right, no, it's not a huge time saver, but and then again, the ability to extend out. So I think we've had a couple good successes, and I think it's, I appreciate your patience. I know this has taken a lot longer than you'd hoped, but I think we have momentum, and so I think if if we want to talk about the dredging, we should probably keep that in play with the state so that, if that's going to be a component, can be a component, it's got its best chance now.
Okay.
Also,
Yes, sir.
What time of year do you propose this work to be done? During the boating season, after the boating season? And how would you impact launching from the town launch?
That's up to you guys. I mean, I think they can do this right in late fall and winter. That's so there's no I think there'd be a state requirement in that location. If you were on a river, the Melvin River, for instance, they probably wouldn't want you working in there October because of salmon and all that.
Yeah.
But here, I think, it's up, whenever we chose to, I mean, the contract had to be available, but they would typically probably want to work in the spring or fall outside of the
What I'm
busy
thinking
season.
about is, the majority of use of that launch is spring and fall.
Mhm.
Islanders or
Oh,
people,
okay, yeah.
and putting in and taking out.
Mhm.
That's irregardless of the Pier 19 wharf system.
Yeah.
It's narrow in there, getting a boat on that launch and out of that launch.
Mhm.
So I thought if you had equipment in the way, if you have to wait for the equipment to move or to schedule a time of day or
So my
something.
guess is that that ramp is closed during construction.
Yeah.
And people just have to use a different ramp.
Yeah, and there's plenty of ramps around.
Right. I mean, it's an inconvenience to people, but for all the reasons you said about
Safety.
the geometry there, safety, equipment, that sort of thing, if you try and keep the ramp open while you're working on it, what you end up doing is increasing the cost of the project and extending the amount of time because you can't do things as efficiently. So
With
it's
proper notice, I think
Yeah,
people
it's-
could plan if we're, if that's, I think that's an important thing for the contractor to tell us when, say, listen, we really need this to be done between this period and this, and see what they're available.
If your work hours are like 8 to 5, people get in before 8 or out after 5.
You drive and sheet pile.
We gonna drive from land or water?
We're not-
From land.
Yeah, I figured
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So they'll be, the unfortunate, I mean, while that wharf's pretty wide, they wouldn't want to have to haul everything, drive off.
No,
and
no,
mothball
I meant
it.
just, I'm thinking the launch area, period.
I think you close it for you close
Yeah, it
that
could be
ramp for
closed
the
for a
amount of
week.
time that you're working on the project, and people
Could be
use
for a
other
week.
ramps.
And then it would be a matter of when the project was gonna be, executed.
Yeah, yeah, and, again, hopefully it could avoid a busy season, and, I mean, it's theoretically, you could do it in winter time, but
Fall,
that cold
late
factor.
fall will be no issue, I wouldn't.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Too bad the town wouldn't have some agreement with Pier 19's launch area that's locked, to be able to use that, get away from the work area.
Mm.
I just do not have any boats around there when they got a crane and
Yeah.
a bunch of, what are these hammers?
Yeah. I mean, I think launching isn't the problem, it's how do you get, where do you tie your boat up?
Yeah. like-
You can't tie it anywhere up on the pier when they're doing construction, it'll be a headache. So that's probably a 3-week period, is I think what we're talking for sheet piling it. And, try to put it one end of the, I think we could try to do it in the later fall, I don't see why that would be done after Labor
Oh,
Day.
as long as that's given a consideration.
Yep, yep.
So we encumbered $5,600 on this project. Oh, 19.2, I'm sorry. Plus 56.
Mhm.
So we should be fine, 24.8.
Yeah, I mean, what we had done was we had a budget for each of the sites.
Yeah.
And I started off with a more challenging site, Union Wharf. So all of the coordination and trying to figure out the DES stuff and all this is kind of really focused. I just left the budget for Lake Road alone and focused mainly on this. And then you guys authorized a little more money to do the report. And then we figured out, okay, here's where it is. Here's the remaining that we think we need, given the extra work and stuff, to get permitted and designed for one option. So I think you have whatever you have in there is what I think we can go with at this point. I don't think we need any more money.
Does that mean Article 17 goes away? Article 17 was to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of blank dollars for repairs to Union Wharf.
I'm sorry.
Does that mean Article 17 goes away? That states to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of X dollars for repairs to Union Wharf.
Yeah. I mean,
That
we don't need it.
that was a
The
placeholder.
one, I guess the one thing that slips through here, is that if we're gonna do permitting, so our price is to prepare the permit, plans, designs, all that stuff. I think in our contract, we have that the town will pay the application fee. I don't know how much, I'll look and see how much the fee is gonna be, but Just want to let you know, if we get into dredging, we get done with all the square footage, I think they just doubled their fees, so it's 40 cents, I believe, a square foot. So, might not be a huge thing, but it could be a couple $1,000s. So I'm just letting you know that's not captured in us, nor in construction. It's one of those that might slip through. So if you don't want to end up with articles, I could give you an estimate for permitting, if that's for the permit application fee, the DES review fee.
I think we have.
Because that would be a cost you would incur at the time of application, so prior to your setting aside money. I wish I could tell you exactly how much it is, but
I think we figured out how to get there. I mean,
well, if you had to, too, I mean, the money in Lake Road could be used for that. I just don't want to start I don't want you guys to, we can start forgetting.
we'll have to move stuff around anyway. But
I don't anticipate huge, I'm just saying it could be a couple $1,000.
That's just for the dredging?
Well, it would be, it's the application in total and whatever components. So it's priced out, there's a base fee and then it's priced out per square footage. The square footage of impact for our, for whatever the sheet pile approach is not really that large. It's the dredging that would probably add something if we were
But
talking
you pay
20
the
feet.
fee before you get the permit?
Yes. Yeah.
They give you the money back? Is that okay?
What do they do now? There was, I think they do on certain lower level applications for shoreland. I think you actually don't get it back for the $200 fee, but I think you would get it back if you didn't.
If they're doing it by the yard,
Yeah.
what if they decide you're only gonna get X number of yards, not what you asked for?
Well, it's a square footage thing, but at the end of the day,
square
it should be
footage.
covering the review costs, right? So it shouldn't really matter. They still have to review it. But I don't.
All right.
Yeah, I can't say offhand, but I could provide you at least an estimated cost for the permit review fee.
That
for
would be
DES.
good if you could get it before the 4th of February,
Oh yeah,
which is next.
I'll get it back to you tomorrow.
I won't have it. Yeah, and then we can decide.
If we're gonna put some money in for that, yeah.
What I was thinking is that if we did want to go, as you guys suggested, is Article 17 would say something like $2,000 for repairs and fees for Union Wharf and Lake Street. That's where I was headed.
Let's hear back from Tyler. Because that's what the money we have.
And I'm gonna get to the cost for extending it all the way up to where the dock.
To the end of the concrete, yeah.
Okay, great.
Nice job.
Thanks, like I said, I really appreciate you guys' patience. It's,
Did you ever fish off that dock as a kid?
I did, yeah, white perch
Yeah.
and,
Yellow
sunfish.
perch?
Yeah. No, it's-
Well, thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks. Thanks for your
Is
time.
this area beyond Inwood, Landwood, gonna be extended?
No, we were proposing stopping it there,
Stopping
but again, we could, if that was of interest, but at this point, we'd stopped. It was basically replacing right where it is today.
Existing,
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you,
thank
Tyler.
Yes.
Good to see you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Travel safe.
Yep.
Thanks.
See you guys.
Okay, next up is our fire chief.
Good morning.
That was fire chief this morning.
We've currently had 13 fire calls, should be 13. Should be 13 EMS calls, 1 fire call, 3 service calls, and 1 special detail, total to 37 for the year. 3 gas furnace inspections, 2 oil burner inspections, and 2 life safety for 7. The ending totals for 2019 were 205 fire calls, 289 EMS calls, 58 service calls, 22 special details for a total of 574. Gas furnace inspections were 40, oil burner inspections 10, wood pellet stove inspections 5, life safety 28 for a total of 83. The department is off to a busy year so far. The department's ambulance is back in service with the paint warranty work being completed, and the ambulance was back on 12/24/2019. E&E Systems of New Hampshire figured out what the issue was with furnace 2 at the central station. It ended up being a low water cutout temperature sensor. The company diagnosed the problem when they were there to do the PM on the furnace control system. This is a company that's been with us since the beginning. They put the control system in where Sam Mechanical hadn't figured out the issue yet. They looked at it while they were there and figured out the problem. The repair for the replacement sensors will be $1,350. The diagnosis and the repair for the EMD 75 kW generator was finally estimated at $9,950. I had turned that information in earlier and just verified that we could go ahead with that and getting that situated. The fuel pump failed. The cranking and load delivery test, unfortunately, is not a simple removal and replace the fuel pump. After tearing down the unit, it was found that the fuel pump rotator head had failed and taken out the housing internally. It is tied into the governor and has to be calibrated. The parts for the overhaul will be coming from the UK and will take 2 weeks from January 15th. This is less than the initial $15,000 estimate. This year, the Firefighters Association is seeking to upgrade the department's extrication tools and some of its hydraulic equipment. Vehicle manufacturers continue to focus on efforts to keep occupant safety in inside vehicles after accidents. This presents an even increased challenge for us as firefighters to gain access into the and provide care for the track occupants. The high tensile strength of automobile metals resists the forces of our traditional equipment. New technologies have improved blade designs specifically for modern vehicle construction, including high tensile strength steel. As many power tools become cordless, so will many of our tools. These cordless tools are a giant step in safety and responsiveness at accident scenes, boosting the effectiveness of crews performing time-sensitive rescue techniques. Cordless tools greatly reduce setup time so crews can get to work faster or even faster. They also remove a significant trip hazard, especially at night, and reduce the amount of equipment firefighters need to carry at scenes. Cordless tools can also be utilized in some places that traditional gas-powered equipment cannot, such as inside houses. We've had cases that something happens inside a home. You really can't bring a gas-powered piece of equipment inside as far as due to the CO and stuff like that. During some of our current training and testing of our hydraulic jaws of life, it was found that we could not cut some of the posts on cars currently on the road, such as a 2005 Subaru Forester B-post. As far as on the back page is an estimate from IPS. This is what the association is proposing to spend as far as replacement equipment for the jaws. And to give you an idea of what we're looking at replacing, are those
I've worked with him, so
Okay.
What we will be replacing in trading in a combi tool that we have that currently will not cut the newer vehicles open. And we have a $2,000 trade-in value for the combi tool and the power unit that currently feeds that. And that is in the estimate there. This will give you an idea of motor vehicle accident. We had an MVA rollover on Middle Road, January 13th, and that's some things that the JAWS will, that we use the JAWS to do.
So what about Charlotte Allen?
Charlotte Allen is an item that I'll cover after this.
Okay.
These particular tools obviously are more than the $10,000 new equipment as far as that have to be okayed by Selectmen as far as before purchase. And obviously, once we purchase the equipment, it has to be accepted at a meeting, at one of the Selectmen's meetings. It has to be publicized for a certain period of days beforehand. But that is what we're looking to purchase for our large purchase this year with the association.
So the association's buying it?
Buying it. There is no added cost to the town after the purchase of this. With the battery powered units, it's going to be a wash because the current units that we have that are hydraulic and gas operated, you have to change the oil in the units themselves, and with the battery operated ones, it's all the hydraulic fluid is all sealed up inside it. It doesn't get changed out as far as that goes. So basically, the unit would be looked over each year and tested. So we probably would not. It might be less actually to maintain these tools.
So are you looking for a vote from us to say we'll accept this?
I guess I am looking to see if it's something that you feel we could go ahead with.
It's, Karen, over $10,000, we have to have a noticed hearing, is that right?
If I remember correctly, I think
Yes.
so, yeah.
Yep.
Under
So-
10, I think you can just do it at a meeting.
Yeah, so I will move that we schedule a public hearing
Okay.
as soon as we can get it on the calendar. And that's the first step.
Yes.
And then we'll go forward from there.
Yep. A second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Nice job.
And we have, we tested multiple tools as far as, and got other quotes from other companies. The next company came in at $8,485 more for the same tools. We were not going to get a trade-in from their company because they do not deal with our particular tools that we have. So we have been looking at that. The Firefighters Association voted to go with the particular Hamatro brand because it's tools that we're currently using. And it was a cheaper price in the long run. As far as the Charlotte Allen item, she had come in on 1/6 at Central Station and advised that she was traveling to Barry Ennis's on the evening of 12/9 by way of Mountain Road and Durgan Road. She advised that she had an automotive bolt go through her 2016 Honda CVR tire. Her thoughts were that she picked it up from the motor vehicle accident that occurred at the Four Corners on 12/8 She came through again on 12/9. It was explained to Miss Allen, that the fire department had swept up the visible debris in the accident scene area, and there was a possibility that it didn't come from that accident scene because the transfer station, that's a major route, obviously. It definitely looks like a bolt from a manifold, an older vehicle. The vehicle that flipped over there, there was no damage to the front end of the vehicle. However, the back of the vehicle was full of stuff, but it all spilled out towards the front lawn of that residence there at the Four Corners. We did spend extra time there, and I explained to her that we spent extra time because there was a gas leak in cleaning up the whole general area. So there's no way of telling if it actually came from that particular accident scene. Looked into it a little bit further as far as obviously the fire department has no insurances that we cover for something like this, a kind of an act of God or a town. She had been given some further information to either talk to the state or the police department to look into as far as the who was involved in the accident and maybe something along that line. So would cover it, but. Right now, we did everything that we possibly could to clean up the scene and make sure that there was no debris and try to follow up on this as best as possible. The total was $186.23 for the tire replacement.
Well, that's why people buy road hazard insurance on their tires.
Yeah.
It's 187. How old was the tire she replaced?
Right. That I think that she was lucky enough that she was able to. The tires were still good enough that she only had to replace one where it's four-wheel drive. But sometimes you get into the point that
They make you.
places won't replace just one because they're you got to
Wear on the
replace
other
them all.
tires, yep.
But so that was that. But just to bring you aware of that particular item. And that's all I have. Oh, I do have one other item. I did get an email back from Tim Yee in reference to the Verizon tower. What is your thoughts as far as the select board with meeting with them again in reference to the 189 megabyte site?
189 being the fire station?
Yeah.
I guess my feeling, if I can go first, is that Tim Lee hasn't come back with any sort of overall solution to our lack of cell phone coverage here in the town. I don't see any mention of money here. He's not gonna put a tower up for free.
Right.
So
Well,
there's a lot more to talk about.
yes, it sounds like that, obviously, when we had talked in the past, there were fees that were gonna be paid to the town as far as rental and things like that.
I mean, does it
It looks like it's in the design type of.
does it positively affect the fire operations,
Oh, most definitely.
and how?
It gives us cell phone coverage, and also it would be giving us a tower to be able to put our equipment at the top of that particular tower. So
Cool.
anything that is currently going through the grant item that we're doing right now, instead of being on the tower that's just above the top of the fire station, it would be on a tower that's far taller as far as it goes, and it would improve our radio communications, I would think. Throughout.
Didn't he also talk about wanting a tower location somewhere on Sodom Road?
At the highway department, and they were also looking at Winter Farms.
So we don't have coverage at the school, really. Data. Well, that's kind of critical if we have an incident at the school.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, we don't have coverage inside the station, and you basically gotta go outside the station to even talk or do anything on a phone.
Yeah, and that's true all over town.
Yep.
So that was my point with Mr. Yee the last time he came in, was he needs to give us a little more comprehensive
Right.
view.
Yep.
What they're gonna do.
And I didn't know, I guess my thoughts is that as they go through further, that they would have a better idea of, you know, your comprehensive view as far as being able to give you more information.
So have they identified a location?
They were talking about, you know, whatever distance it was that they needed for clearance for a town hall behind the fire station.
Up on that hill?
Up on the hill. And then, if I remember right, before it was a 50 by 50 area that they were, 50 foot area that would be fenced in, that they were talking about.
Right, and then you've got, I mean, there's all sorts of permitting issues too.
Right.
Because when you get into, and that's sort of a neighborhood, so now we've got the
I would think
people
that,
up on Federal Corner Road that are gonna look at it. And,
Yeah.
you know,
I would think that it would be the same as if they ran into County Road. You know, obviously there's gonna be some people for it and some people against it,
right.
as far as site and things like that.
So you're gonna have them come in again? Is that what your plan was?
If that's okay with you, we'll have them come in again and go
Yeah.
through. and-
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Police Department, Chief Shigori. I don't know why you're here. Guess we did something wrong. Did we do something wrong?
I don't think so.
Good morning.
So, yeah, but so-
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks.
All right. You want to run through it for us?
Well, if you look at the stats, one of the things I hadn't put on for a while was calls for service. Probably because things had changed and I couldn't get them. But for the end of year stats that go into the town report, I had generated calls for service. To be clear though, that's all law enforcement, not just Tufton Borough on calls for service. There isn't really a way that I could accurately figure out how to break out what are calls from other, because it's dispatches combined. The rest of it's all, is us, the motor vehicle stop summonses, accidents, arrests, all that is on us. Obviously December, we completed our use of force training, firearms. We did our, with the fire department, we did our Narcan for first responders, finished that along with CPR and AED. I sent someone to PBT instructor school and somebody to field training officer school.
PBT stands for?
Preliminary breath test, little handheld breath test on the side of the road. Or in other cases, it could be used too.
Is the technology coming out where it can test for marijuana?
Breath,
Let's hope not.
they claim it is, but I don't see a point in investing in it because there's no number to tell you anything. They could tell you 5 nanograms, they could tell you 10 nanograms, and there is
I
no
don't think
number
anybody's
to
ever done they haven't allowed the research that would determine, like with alcohol, there's certain mitigating factors like weight and height and all the rest of it.
There have been some studies, and some states do set them
Yeah.
limits, but the science is,
Preliminary?
they have results, well, THC is fat soluble versus water soluble, so it doesn't necessarily, depends on your body makeup, depends on how much you have, how often you have it, and as it releases back into your system versus alcohol, which is water soluble and tends to be metabolized to your liver at a very constant rate of 0.015 per hour. It reduces versus THC goes all over the place as and there's no set number. Some studies show one thing, some studies show another. Until we have even a prima facie number, I can't even see a point in spending money on any equipment that does that.
It's sort of moot anyway, isn't it? Because we don't have legalized recreational marijuana use in New Hampshire.
Well, it's for impairment though, so
Yeah.
people could be impaired on that, or even medically, you don't get a pass on being impaired driving. So, so we've had, obviously, if you look at the stats, our motor vehicle stops are up, our summonses are up, accidents are down slightly, arrests are up a lot, felonies are up slightly, our incidents and calls for service are up. It's busy, you know, going through the arrests and the criminal trespass. That was actually something that happened somewhat earlier in the year. We were able to, I think that happened in early December or November that happened. That was an investigation. It took some time to get these two young men to take care of their situation there. We've had, since the first of the year, we've had a number of cars broken into, with items stolen from the cars, including some firearms. We've spent a significant amount of time, over 80 hours probably, on that case. There has been an arrest. Stephen Lavasser of Molten Borough was arrested and charged with that, along with some other things. But what has happened with that case is we've had to spend a significant amount of money. We executed several search warrants involving towing cars. Most of my investigative budget for the year is already gone. And from what I'm hearing, scuttlebutt, reading in the news, some of these search warrants we're getting for data are going to start costing more money, cell phone search warrants. So I'm going to be over on that budget, there's no doubt, on investigations line. We've already spent $650, and I still have probably at least another 100 to go, because we used up all our evidence bags on this case, amongst other things. So we're probably going to be about $750, $800 out of our 1,000 for the year is already gone, essentially.
Could I make a comment? And it's a
Yeah.
positive one. When you gave me an initial briefing about this, and you gave me the public information, I complimented you. And I want to say thank you to you and your officers, sir. It's a lot of work. And I hope you get the guns back.
Hopefully we do.
Thank you for
we're
your,
working,
thank you for your time.
That's what we've been working on, and still working on, trying to recover those items. We've only recovered a few of the things taken, and the firearms were not recovered yet.
If anybody has info, they can call you, right?
Absolutely. And I did include again, as I was prepared to state, our annual report, the IVRs, the incident-based reporting. I don't usually do side by side between years, but that gives an idea of a breakdown of what we've had.
So this
This
this is in 2019, right?
Yeah,
So for the whole year,
yep.
seems the biggest problem is trespass. Okay, that's the
Trespass,
same-
typically, yeah, and simple assaults.
Same thing over and over.
Yeah.
All right,
That's probably the biggest things we have going on.
okay, we're gonna try to schedule a meeting with the architects at some point in time. We've allocated some money for
Yeah.
next year's warrant article for capital reserve going into the police. We want them to do a presentation.
They're coming in, yeah.
On the 11th, they're coming in, right?
I think that sounds right.
Is
I
it-
can't remember if it's the
So it's
Thursday,
election
11th.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have not heard yet if what day I have to be in court in Belknap County. I hope they contact me soon, 'cause it's next
I'm
week.
gonna exercise my executive privilege, you're not gonna testify.
Wow. Okay, how's that executive, let's see how that executive privilege works, I get a subpoena.
You had
not
mentioned,
honoring subpoenas anymore.
you had mentioned to me about the cruiser article, I think, right? Did you want to talk to him about that, did you say?
Did
I
I?
thought one of you mentioned it.
No, the budget committee wanted to talk to you about it,
Oh,
Okay,
and you didn't come in to talk about it.
I didn't know it was.
yeah, I didn't, we didn't, yeah, we did.
There
I
was
could
a-
have.
There was a controversy, not a controversy, conflicting views on keeping the other cruiser. Finally got over the hump of getting a new cruiser because it was time to get
Yeah.
a new cruiser.
Yeah.
Not so much keeping the other one. And one of the items that came up was, if you're putting all this new radio equipment into your new cars, are we putting the new radio equipment into this old car? And if we aren't putting the new radio equipment in, how effective is it gonna be as a replacement?
The radio that's in there now is one we have to replace no matter what, essentially, because it's one of the ones that doesn't work.
Right, well, you'll be putting a new one in the new cruiser.
We have to, because they don't make parts for the old one.
Right,
That one is one of the ones, I've been replacing them as new cars come in, rather than, I think I want to say the fire department came in, replaced a bunch at once, but I've been replacing them as they're replacing vehicles. Theoretically, every other year, we're supposed to do that, but we may be at a point in a year or two, we may have to do two, just because to get them, they don't make parts for that anymore. The good thing is, we do have some spare parts sitting here from the one that came out of like the truck before, so there are some parts here that we can scavenge to keep that one going, I believe. So the radio, essentially none of that stuff is gonna be transferable to a new vehicle.
right.
But
So-
will it still work in the old vehicle, or are you gonna have to
Yeah.
replace it in the old vehicle to
It's-
keep it
Yeah, it's an
operational?
operating system that you're replacing it with, different enough so that the old cruiser doesn't get to communicate.
Yeah, my thought is, I'm not gonna sink a lot of money into this,
Well, our
Vehicle?
thought is that you won't too, but,
and so if something, say it needs a major repair, that would be a question, is whether or not we really wanna, it's to have a spare, but it's not gonna cost us a lot. My plan is not to spend a lot on it either. In other words, we'll keep it going. If, say it needs a transmission or something, done. You know, just get rid of it. I mean, I'm not looking to sink money into it. I'm looking at it the sense of, if we sell it at auction, we're not gonna get a whole lot. Two, nothing in it is really transferable to the new vehicle, so we're just gonna be paying to rip it out and throw it out. And it will save us a lot of time, and it won't be used that much that it's gonna need major repairs. It's gonna cost us an inspection, maybe some minimal repairs and maintenance. I'm not looking at anything major for it. And it will save us a significant amount of time when we have one in the shop now, because we won't be shuffling cars around as often.
we'll see. Yeah.
Could I bring up two past items?
Yep.
There's a couple of months of hours missing from last year, officers' hours,
It should be, I thought they were all done.
September, October,
I'm pretty sure they're all done, I'll check.
okay? And I
I've seen
know,
copies and I've turned them in, so I
I
don't
know
know
that
what's.
December is a work in progress.
I thought that was done too, but I'll double check on that.
And the status of the job performance reviews.
Yep, they will be done, because we have one that needs to be done. I was doing one for somebody because they're coming off probation. And, but then I read the thing and it said I had to wait till after they were off probation at the actual end of that year to do it.
So that's your new officer?
Yes,
She's gonna come up to an anniversary date,
February 1st this week.
right? And do we have not only the job review, but is there a salary review that happens at that
Yes.
point? Okay.
Yes, that's why I was gonna get it done. I had started it last week, I was gonna go over with her, and then I read the thing again, and said, no, it has to be done at the end of that
So
year.
let's plan on doing it the 3rd,
Okay.
okay, next Monday?
Are the other officers had theirs completed?
Not yet.
We'll
It will
set
be.
up a non-public and
Well, that's
Get
the other
that
part of
done.
it too, but that one, yeah, it comes up with both issues, come up with, I mean, I've had nothing to believe that it's not gonna be a successful completion of the probation period, but it is a personnel matter.
yeah, and it's nice that we illustrate to a new employee that we're actually doing things in a timely manner. So we'll do that next week. Anything else?
No, great. Nice job on that investigation.
Nope.
Okay.
Thanks,
Free
Chief.
to go.
All right.
Don't leave the county. Turn
Yeah,
your
we-
passport in at the window.
And I want to meet with you at some point, see how things went
Yes,
this
please, thank
weekend.
you.
Okay.
Okay, Dennis Salembo,
You just put it down.
knocking them off this morning.
Yeah.
You moving right along?
Yeah.
You want,
Yeah, when I saw this agenda, I thought, geez,
Yeah.
I go out of town and Karen just stacks it on here.
do you want that non-public early on the 3rd, or, I know sometimes early is hard.
Well, ask Andy what he'd like.
Yeah.
If he wants it early in the morning, we can do it then.
And that,
If he
yeah,
wants it
that's
later,
fine.
That's fine.
Fine with me.
That accident was really significant.
Good.
Manpower changes.
Yeah.
Karen, right. Morning.
Hey, young fella, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How you guys?
Hey, Dennis?
Yeah. Been a while, huh?
It has.
Yes.
How's your operation? You back now
I had a
again?
headbutt issue with it, buddy. He did not televise operations.
Oh, it's,
Like
I'm
brand
sorry.
new.
I apologize.
Good to see you. And
You get a haircut?
Yes.
How's things with you guys? Okay.
so far, so good. How's Parks and Rec?
Good. I'll give you a little report if you'd like. Is that my job?
That's it. So we'll pay for
Kind of
it.
a slow period, well, for me, basically, with my operation since November, December, but we're back at it. Just some notes here and some upcoming programs I'll talk about a little bit. The snowshoes, of course, are now available at the library for, snow, of course. Yeah.
Oh, drat.
Yeah. Can you take care of that?
Jeez, believe me, we've had enough, I think, you know. I don't know if you know it, but we combined with Ossipee and Wilpro with Kingswood High School, and we're running a series of basketball clinics. And we got over 75 kids. We had our second one last Saturday. Our final one is this Saturday. And we got a bunch of tough to grow kids. And it's going good. It's really the idea of the AD up at Kingswood, and I think it's a good connection with me being there. I have the kindergarten first graders, so that's quite a treat.
They want
Yeah.
on that.
Actually, Ossipee gave us 2 little adaptable hoops that fit on the regulars, so they're down to 8 feet. First week we had to improvise a little bit, but the parents are great, and it's a good program. It's a good start leading into next year as far as the basketball goes, and there's some question marks on that, but the clinic is going great. I'm having a ball with the young kids. I love it. We've got a program planned here on February 8th. It's actually here at Town Hall on a Saturday. It's a Valentine's Day, cookies, crafts, decorate your own cookie, make your cards. 10 to 12, it's free. It's only open to 30 kids. I can't take credit. I gotta give my wife credit on that. It was her idea, so she'll be here helping, no doubt about it. But that'll be a big day for me because later in that day, we travel up to Kennett to play my grandson. So I'll be coaching against my grandson. So that'll be a fun day for us. We got a paint class, minus Karen, of course. She's booked her own paint class at home, but we do have a paint class up at the town hall, the town meeting room up there on Wednesday, March 4th, 6 o'clock. First one went good, and we got a second one planned with Doodle and Die. Actually, I'm not sure I'm a big fan of this one, but this is the one they're gonna be painting this time. Last time they did more of a sun, was it a sun you did?
Gosh, I'm trying to remember what we did that night.
I think it was like a sun thing, you guys, a
Yeah,
sun
I
thing.
think so.
But it seems to
Oh,
be
this
popular,
one.
and like I said, it's our second one, so.
Daffodil or
They
whatnot.
just need a melting clock.
Sunflower.
It goes
Yeah.
Salvador Dali colors.
Wow.
They're looking good.
Put some coyotes and
Yeah.
stuff out here.
Yeah,
too.
that's right.
Pretty tough.
We do have a CPR class scheduled for Tuesday, April 7th, 6 o'clock at the fire station with Caleb there. And again, the limit is up to 6 people only, so registration forms are gonna be online and available here at Town Hall.
Does a good job.
Yeah, no, he does. Yeah, I took the class maybe a couple months ago. And, it was a private session. I was the only one in it, and he did a great job. So it was good. Something new to this area. I got a meeting Thursday night in Meredith. It's kind of a surprise, and I'm kind of excited about it. And we might be hosting it right here. It's the NFL flag football program. I think football sometimes gets a bad name, and I think a lot of parents are going away from football simply because of the concussion and all that stuff. So they're trying to get more kids involved. The head coach up at Kingswood, Paul Landry, contacted the president of the it's not Pop Warner, it's NFL flag football. His name is Bob Giroux. And we're meeting with him this Thursday, like I say, up in Meredith. It's kind of an interesting program. It's not going to be a team from Tuftonboro. It would be maybe one kid from Tuftonboro, one from Ossipee, one from Wolfboro. And there's only, I think your son's involved in
It's a
a
great
program
program.
like that.
Yep.
They only have 5 kids on the field, and there's only basically 8 kids on the team. So
Mhm.
you know, a lot of them get to play a lot. They get the nice NFL jerseys. So more information will be coming your way after I meet Thursday. But they're going
You'll
to
like working with Bob Giroux.
Oh, he's great.
Oh, you know him?
Retired state trooper.
Oh, good.
His wife, for years, was a coach at
Yeah.
phys ed.
And that's a big
Middle school.
program, I guess, they
Yes.
run too.
So
So.
when does the season run on this?
Well, they're going to do a big promotion in the spring.
Yeah.
And I think they want a spring program and a fall
That's
program.
correct.
Is that correct, Hal? Yeah, yeah, so.
Little Carl's involved?
Yeah, he does the one in the fall, because of course spring is baseball, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. They like to have the 3 games going on at one time, and I'm gonna have to measure that field to see if we can fit. It's only a 60-yard field, so we might be able to fit 3 that way. But the goal would be to have it right here.
Oh,
And I think a lot of our Tuftonville kids will take part in that. So we're excited about that. The concerts, again, we're looking for sponsors. We got a few new ones that we think are gonna come in. The contracts to the groups will be going out this week. We do have an old home days meeting this coming Wednesday, 6:30, right here. And again, we're looking for new people, new ideas, and certainly people are welcome. They can email us or show up, but we'd like to get some more people involved with that. Just kind of evaluate what went on last year, what was good, what was bad, what we'd like to change. And that'll take place again on Wednesday. We got our Easter egg planned for April 11th, the day before Easter. And more information will be coming out on that. But all the flyers I've talked about are going to, well, they're gonna be approved for the school to get the Valentines. But the CPR and the doodle and die and all that will be coming out. So I'm excited to be back, to miss you guys.
Don't be a stranger.
I love the renovations down at the beach. I think they look great. That's my opinion. It looks like it's a bigger beach.
Yeah.
Plans down there. I think we really want to try and get 6 stations with umbrellas and grills. That's one of our goals. Possible volleyball court there. Talking to the principal, he'd like to get a volleyball court somewhere up in the field there, as long as it doesn't interrupt our flag football. But I'm excited to get going, and I'm healthy and ready to go.
And I know and I apologize for missing the last meeting, but the Parks and Rec had decided to sponsor skis or whatever
Right.
kids needed. How's that program going?
I'm not sure how much they've used. I know they gave them $1,000.
Right.
One of the bad news is we did get turned down on our first apply to Meredith Village Savings Bank on the Gaga pit and the lower basketball hoops. But we're looking at our budget now with the Parks and Rec Commission and see if we can come up with $1,200 to maybe even get a Gaga pit over there. So I'm not sure how much they've used. I know we got a nice thank you letter from him based on the donation. And and I'm sure there's plenty of kids that could use the help, you know, based on skiing or whatever, so.
Right, just want to
But
make sure.
it's kind of an alternative to what they used to do, is that correct? With the actual scholarship type thing?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, a little different than that.
Yeah.
We're not asking the people to come and ask for money, which is a little troublesome for some folks. We're just saying that, you know, the equipment can be provided.
Right, yeah, yeah.
So hopefully, everybody get out on the
We'll
slopes.
try not to make that a barrier for people that want to participate.
Right, right, yeah.
Oh, good idea.
'Cause
Yeah.
I think it's Thursdays they go out. I think they go to King Pine or wherever, skiing.
Instead of Algonac, I'm not sure.
They may go to Abac.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought they were going to King Pine.
Yeah. I think too, the relationship in Kingswood, I've got plenty of interest in people becoming lifeguards, both of the swim team and a lot of the girls' basketball players. So I'm gonna meet with them towards the end of the season, and like I said, I think it was a really good move for me to get into that school and you know, met a lot of kids. My team is,
And it keeps you active during the winter season, right?
the what?
It keeps you active during the winter
It
season.
does. No, I like it. Yeah, I like to get more wins. Right now we're 3-5, so but we're learning. And the varsity is young, but
Well, you know what the difference is? Good coaching, right?
well, we're working on it. I'll tell you that.
Okay, Arnold.
Yeah. Of course, you know the sad news in the sports world was yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant, and
His daughter.
Yeah.
there were 9. Actually, there was a coach from the Cape League, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Not realizing how much he was loved outside of the basketball court. You know what I mean? A lot of people
Yeah.
really loved Kobe. You know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was a sad thing. He was a good guy, except when he played the Celtics. I didn't like him.
Thank you for your.
All right. Yep. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care.
Have a good
Thanks,
day.
Yeah. You too. See you, Ken.
Parks and, or, not Parks and, Cemetery budget revisit.
I don't know.
Karen, wake us up.
What are we
That's the
revisiting?
2,111, if you can add it to the cemetery maintenance line.
For what?
That's the one that Primex reimbursed the town in 2019. For the French cemetery, but the work won't be done till this year. So the auditors
Oh, they wouldn't
suggested
let-
adding, or recommended adding $2,111 to the cemetery budget. The budget committee already did it, so we're kind of doing it a little backwards than we would.
Well, what is the amount of money?
$2,111.
Well, if the budget committee already put it in their budget, why does it have to come back to us?
Oh, continuity, I guess.
Comity.
Yeah, usually we,
Well,
you know, if you're in agreement, just so usually usually it goes to you first, but of course the
So
timing.
we're at 27,850. They're at 29,961.
Does that?
Yep.
I follow up what Bill says. It's their budget. And when I was on the budget committee, I always let the budget committee put its recommendations in, the selectmen put their recommendations in. Because years ago, the selectmen would go and renegotiate and whatever. And the comment was, see that it's just a rubber stamp.
Well, this wasn't brought to your attention yet. So we're kind of doing things a little in a
Just
different
had
order
it
than
brought to our
normal.
attention. What do we want to do?
Let the budget committee do it.
Either way, I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but again, they're doing the final budget, they've already acted on it. If you want to do it, that's fine.
No,
If we can leave it.
alone.
Yeah.
And if
I mean,
anybody
at
has
some point in
any.
time, we have to stop budgeting.
Right. If anybody has any question, it's something that came up, was brought to the budget committee's attention, made sense to them, they added it in, and that's
They
fine.
did their job.
Okay. Signature file we already did. Selectmen's update. Anything?
Yes, on the 5th of February, I'm going to my Lakes Region Planning TAC meeting. While I'm there, I was going to ask them, but I'll only do it with your permission, the status of the master plan. Isn't it February it's supposed to be done?
I don't know why that's a TAC thing, but
Well, it's Lakes Region Planning that is writing it.
they're providing input, right, and I don't know what the updated status is on that.
Well, I didn't want to be a lone wolf here.
Yeah.
I'm all set.
Anything from you, Bill?
I've been out of town, so no, I'm just sort of getting,
It's okay.
getting re-engaged.
Take it slow.
Yeah,
It's not worth it.
yeah.
I went to the budget committee meeting last week. Finally got through personnel and administration just to bring, I know Lloyd was there, but to bring Bill up to speed. There's no agreement on what needs to be done with regard to next year's health care budget. Half the budget committee wants to come up with a number beyond which we won't exceed, or a factor
We'll have to call
Above.
Carmack, huh?
above which we will not go. But half the budget committee doesn't care what the number is as long as the employees are being part of it, right?
You did a
I
great
think
job.
what I hopefully convinced them of was they can only give me one task. They can't give me more than one. And I don't want to get to the point where, and I know that I did say this at the meeting, I don't want to get to the point where, as selectman rep, I just say, put a number down, approve what you can, move on, because you're not going to manage this budget line by line like that. Because I think it's been productive in the past, it's productive this year. I mean, I got a lot of help from,
Tom,
I'm sorry?
Tom,
Tom.
Tom, huh?
And I think it's been a learning experience for a couple of members who hadn't been there or were new to the place. It does seem as though we've only, I mean, I think the paper reported a 1.6% increase. I'm gonna have to revisit that. I don't think it's that high, but it might be. And maybe that was just the operating budget that we were talking about. The warrant articles seem to be coming in pretty close to even. I did have a concern, and we did not vote. Did the budget committee vote on that? No, they didn't.
Tabled it.
On the, and this is
CBA.
A CBA now,
CBA, CBA, is that what it's called?
a CBA.
SCBA.
Yeah.
There should be a copy of more articles with a note for you about that on the top.
Yes, yeah, right here.
Okay, great. That doesn't look like the newest one. Do you have one with typed notes for me on the top?
122. Is that the one you're talking about?
It looks like, right, like that.
Yeah.
I think you might have it.
Yeah.
You sure we have it? Oh, might have it, I don't know.
There we go. That should be the
Okay,
latest and greatest.
Okay, so that's
Article 11, yeah.
Article 11. And it's just a, and you guys can outvote me. I don't really, I don't hold anybody's feet to the fire and make people angry. But I have a fundamental problem with paying things out of, saying we're gonna pay something out of the undesignated fund balance for two reasons. First reason is it leads people that are voting to believe it doesn't cost them any money on certain occasions. And two, it invades that place that we need to use for regulating taxes in October. And it just makes it more confusing. And my bottom line is if we're gonna spend the money on this thing, then we gotta ask the voters if we can spend the money on this, I would say yes. I don't think they're gonna turn it down because it's, and I don't know that it's adversely affecting their tax rate at this juncture. So this is, I'm
Yeah, right.
falling on my sword.
Yeah,
on
no,
this one.
you know, it's, the ultimate effect is zero. Whether we take it out of fund balance or we put it in the current year's taxation. Right. So either way is, you know, if people think that coming out of fund balance doesn't cost us money, it's the same dollars.
Yeah. I know,
Okay.
just
It's-
money you put in your money you've
It's
saved.
just taking money out of the piggy bank that's there already, which leaves less money in the piggy bank to use to adjust taxes. I mean, I'm fine taking that line out of there and just let it's not the same as if the money is coming from some other source.
Well, or if we're doing the big police station, for instance, or the fire station, and we're taking $300,000 out of the undesignated fund balance, I can see that.
Yeah.
We did that with, I don't know that we did that with the library, but I can see that happening because it's a major impact on the budget.
Yeah.
And this is just okay, I'm gonna make a motion that Article 11 read, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $27,000 to be added to the previously established Fire Rescue Department SCBA self-contained breathing apparatus equipment capital reserve fund.
I'll second.
All those in favor, or do you want discussion? I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna vote for it. This is a recommendation of the fire department. It's been a recommendation for a number of years of CIP. And to me, it's a Pyrrhic victory, but last year, I thought the selectmen made a plea to the town to do the library without charging interest. Last year, our warrant articles where we had to raise money to taxes in this coming year was $955,000. With the current warrant articles we have, including the 12,000 we put in for conservation, that figure is $965,694. I thought that we, I don't want to say we made a promise to the people, but the thing is that we were going to give them a break this year. That those dollars have already been raised by taxes. Let's not raise that money this year. The other thing is, to me, I agree with this gentleman, it makes no difference whether we do the fund balance incrementally or whether we offset taxes in November, so I'm going to vote no. Thank you.
All right, but before you vote no, because I'm not gonna call for a vote quite yet,
Thank you for letting me speak.
just the more we can, whatever reduction in taxes needs to happen wasn't gonna happen in October of 2019 when we voted for that warrant article, or all those warrant articles in March of that year. It was always gonna happen in 2020. That's when it's going to happen. And so I think you're not gonna get a tax break in June of next year, but you're gonna get a tax break in December.
Yeah.
And that's my hope. I'm sure it's a certainty as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
And I know we asked the fire department to give up on that last year so that we could accommodate the library. I don't think asking the town to vote for it out of amount to be raised by taxes is giving up on it. I mean, I don't think it's gonna shift the balance of votes by asking, by eliminating this wording.
Right.
If I change your mind. All right, I'm gonna call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you.
I worry, and I worry that your vote will be seen as a vote against the SCBA. That would be my only concern.
I
You
understand.
don't have to worry because you're not running for anything, but
I
I don't
understand.
want it out on the street that you're voting against the equipment. You're only voting against the method.
That's a reasonable comment.
Okay. 2020 warrant articles, are there any other? Yeah,
We did 16 already, right? We increased that.
yeah, 19. I got it on my Max Ledoux hat, I think. To see if the town will vote to establish a 19-mile brook expendable trust fund per RSA 31:19-A for the purpose of monitoring water quality in 19-mile brook. And this is where I had the verbiage, I think.
What about saying 19-mile brook watershed? instead of all the way to 19 Mile Bay. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah,
The watershed is on both sides.
so for the purpose of monitoring water quality in the 19 Mile Brook watershed
And to raise an appropriate.
with its terminus at 19 Mile Bay.
Sure.
And to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 to put in the fund for which is named the Selectmen, Board of Selectmen's agents to expend for said fund. I thought that.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, do we need to vote on that?
So move.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
22, Skip Hurd presented an article to the Budget Committee. He expressed his wish to have his article placed after the Farm Pond Road article on the warrant. Later in the meeting, Guy Pipe suggested that the Willand Road petition article be moved up in the sequence and not fall at the end of the warrant for whatever reason. I checked with Diane regarding placement of petition warrant articles. Although it has been the town's practice to put the articles at the end of the warrant, it's not required, and they can be moved up if the Board of Selectmen chooses. I guess my only concern is we're not gonna put them in the middle. Like go through a bunch of money articles, then do the petition, then do some more money
Right.
articles. So they're either gonna be right at the beginning, or they're gonna be at the end. I don't have, and I probably will never have, given my predilections, a feeling for the tenor of the community vis-à-vis town budgets, town meeting. I mean, are we gonna have a crowd there that wants to do nothing, or is there gonna be a crowd there that's amenable to suggestion?
Can I speak on this article? First of all, there's absolutely nothing wrong, illegal about someone standing up and say, I'd like to take Article 19 before we do anything else, or that's been done in
We'd
the
have to hear
past.
I don't know how the moderators would treat that.
In the past, the current moderator has allowed that. He's put it up for a vote, and that's what's happened. I'd like to address this warrant article.
Sure. Can't do anything about it, but sure.
That's right. The first thing is, you sign an agreement, you agree with the town that you can build your house anywhere you want,
Right.
okay? And that's acceptable to me. There's certain understandings that come with that. On the other hand, I understand there's 4 families there now. I'm going to look at the bigger picture, and that's global. What if the town goes on a 5-year project and makes the Wheeling Road and Federal Corner Road, brings everything up to standard? Understand what I'm saying? Over a long period of time.
It would have to be quite some period.
Yeah.
That's right. What would it do for the town? Just think if, for example, it would divert 25% of the traffic on Ledge Hill Road.
You think?
Well,
I mean, it might, I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And my thought is, let the 4 people work with the town and bring up that intersection, what needs to be, it's a hill that goes onto a state highway, use that fill down below, bring it up to town standards, and then we accept it. Little by little, the Federal Corner Road that we're talking about be brought up to standards. And then eventually the in-between section be improved. There's 2 sand pits on Federal Corner Road where there's material. We can use PGA aggregate that is free to help mitigate the cost. What does this do for the community and for the fire department and for traffic? I'm going to say globally, 10-year project.
Well, I think it would have to be a longer term, but it would probably have to have a lot more discussion.
Yes, it would be. I'm talking
And I think,
the global
you know, I
approach.
think I made my feeling known a couple of times, maybe at the budget meeting at one point as well, that it takes a lot of the pressure off of the backland if you've got more road frontage. But I
Well,
don't know that, I don't know that it changes this.
For example, there's 4 houses on the lake, Lower Beach Pond, Upper Beach, whatever it is,
Lower.
that you can only get to by water.
Right,
And, you know,
right.
Additionally, I was hoping to have something for you today, and this just reminded me. I spoke with Jim Bean about this last week, and he was going to write something up with his concerns about that road becoming Class 5, and I don't have that for you today.
He doesn't
As I
have it, or
hoped.
you don't have it, or he doesn't have it?
Well, he was going to write it up and send
And
it
he
to me,
doesn't
and I
have it.
didn't receive it yet,
Alright,
but, so anyway, just to add to that,
Yep.
I thought I had it for you, but.
there's a lot of moving parts here.
And we can't amend this article.
Now, what we can do is we can put a different but similar article of our own on the warrant. And that's happened from time to time when somebody comes forward with a petition that's, say, close to what a board thinks makes sense.
Right.
The board can put their own article on.
Right. Like
a
in
com-
the event
a-
the
a com-
article-
a competing article that maybe addresses it from a little different angle. I guess to come back to what you mentioned about Willand Road and Federal Corner Road, and turning it from a Class 6 back into a Class 5. As far as I know, the only real usage on the Class 6 section is these folks up at the north end that have their homes up there.
Right.
The middle section, there are some lanes off of that section down to some camps on the pond. I've driven through there. It's pretty rough.
Yeah.
And my thought when you're talking about upgrading that whole road is that's a pretty significant project.
Yes, it is.
Fair amount of money. We've already identified other road projects in town that people are lined up to have work done on roads. So we're either gonna say, again, in a global sense, that we're gonna strip money out of existing road projects to put into this road, or we're gonna significantly increase the amount of money that we're spending on roads to upgrade Willand and Federal Corner. And I always think we gotta look at what the usage is, what the potential usage, what the benefit is, where do we best spend the dollars?
Yes.
And I think a better or a different approach, hopefully it would end up together, is if there's demand, I hate to sound like a Republican, but if there's demand, if there are property owners along those roads who would like to have that be a Class 5 road instead of a Class 6 road, allowing them to invest the money into, I mean, if on the Winter Circle Farm side of that, of Willand Road, I think there's some land there that could be
Developed. Yep.
I mean, if you could, if somebody were to understand that the town would be more than willing to reclassify more of that road as the road gets improved, that's another way to go about it. I mean, it's not unlike what happened in Wolfboro on Trotting Trap Road,
Correct.
which was a Class 6 road throughout my youth, teen years. And then Warren Snyder went up in there and he decided he was gonna put a housing development in, and most of that road repair, a lot of the road repair came out of that budget.
Kewadin Road the same way.
Yeah, Keewaydin Road's the same way,
Yeah.
although I think that was a camp road
Yes.
originally. But yeah, there's ways to do it that make more sense than us taking it upon our, I mean, it's not like we got a big infrastructure budget we're trying to spend.
Right.
I like the idea that any town road that we take over be up to town specs.
It has to be,
Yes.
yeah.
And that means a better,
And that's why I'm gonna say to Karen that we need to tell our road agent, we need that thing in here by next week.
And I just was recalling some of the conversation with him that I can remember, was plowing the, I guess, I don't recall that road, I don't, but
Right.
the big incline and plowing it and sanding it.
Incline is what it is. It's a town road.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be changed.
But more particularly, he mentioned, that road additionally in addition to his regular, maintenance of that road in addition to his current
Right.
load under the same budget amount. Meaning that
Yeah,
road
but he's
as well
not
as
doing
Farm
anything
Road.
until 2021, or, well, November, I guess, in December, he might be plowing it. But it
He's
really
not gonna be
doesn't have to-
maintaining the road until after town meeting
Mhm.
and after whatever improvements might need to get done.
Right,
Mhm.
that's,
Get done.
and that's the problem I have with this petition article, is it doesn't address that
Right.
improvement part. And I
Right.
wonder if we should try to pen competing article, as you were mentioning.
Yep, that makes sense there, and, right, we've had
It
that,
recommends taking it over
we've
by
had that
150.
conversation with Skip, but
Right.
it is not in the article,
Right.
right? And, so, but back to the order of the articles, and you were there when Guy suggested moving it up in the order. And this is because some people don't want to stay till the end of the meeting, and so,
I don't know. I guess,
so what's more important and what's not more? Quite honestly, it doesn't seem to me that would be a particularly controversial article. Maybe I'm wrong.
no, I mean, I remember Sawyer Road getting voted down,
Sure.
but that was just a personality conflict.
Right,
Yep.
I don't see this as.
and that was a money thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that was expending some,
$10.
yeah.
Um, Well, at any rate, we don't have to make a decision on order quite yet, do we?
No, no.
We can't get it to the state until after the budget meeting,
Uh,
which is on the 11th, I believe, right?
Well, actually, they have a couple remaining things to vote on, that they'll
Right.
vote on. But if you could do me a favor and by the 3rd, your meeting on the 3rd, just any kind of
Decide.
final changes you have on
Yeah.
order. As I noted, some of the DRA reworded some of the articles slightly, not a lot.
Right.
Or Diane did. Just anything you have, if we could finalize the warrant and
Would it
and then we'll
help-
add the budget committee votes after.
Would it help you if we did it for Friday the 31st, when we're signing checks? And
Don't think-
that's the only item that we're dealing with, is any questions?
Is there any way
I don't have a
to,
lot of appointments for you on
can
the
they
3rd.
withdraw their petition warrant?
Pardon?
Could they withdraw their petition warrant article?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I can ask though.
Yeah. Why don't we get that information too?
Okay.
Because it may be that if we construct, if there are 2 warrant articles on there, God forbid everybody votes yes on both of them, and they conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Then what do we
Okay,
do?
I'll ask about that.
There's
Yeah,
case
if
law
we
on
can
that.
clean it up, really,
I'm sure there is.
then I'll have it all cleaned up and the final votes for you on the
All right.
11th and then.
Any other business? If not, I'm gonna ask that, do you want public input again?
Don't we have
I was
correspondence?
gonna say, did you do correspondence? I don't-
Just one little thing, okay?
Okay,
And Lloyd mentioned Article 17 on the Union Wharf deal and Tyler Phillips. I didn't get the whole story, so is there money for Tyler Phillips in their project? And then we're still gonna do a warrant article? or are you gonna cancel that warrant article?
So we haven't, my understanding is we've deferred acting on that. There may be permitting money that we need to appropriate money for.
So the warrant article will go through that.
It might.
It might.
Might not.
Right,
We haven't finalized the warrant yet.
He said he can get that information to us in a couple of days.
yeah.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Okay, correspondence, as much as I hate it. The Carroll County Broadband Committee is gonna meet again on the 13th. This is the minutes of their meeting from back, or 13th of February, I'm sorry. The minutes-
Where is it?
It's gonna be at the Mount Washington Valley Economic Council in Conway. It's hosted by the Conway Select Board. And the House of Representatives has a ballot initiative going on here. Americans with Disabilities, et cetera. I don't know if did you get a chance to, you read this, Bill?
I read it,
I
yeah.
know.
And so, but it was a while ago, I don't recall.
I don't believe-
Is this something that has to go through the legislature before it comes down?
I didn't fully read it, but Heather wrote that note that.
It is a House bill currently.
There will be a
Committee to study
requirement
the
in the
implementation of
future.
accessible ballots. So that's, the committee was established.
Right.
The settlement agreement between the United States and the city of Concord with regard to people who can't read. People who can't read.
We already have that in
Just says
place.
disabled.
For
Well,
state and federal elections.
Yeah,
You're-
This is for
federal
town
elections.
elections they're talking about.
Yeah.
I know of people who, my friends who can't read or write, and they are assisted in that.
But
This is mentioned as
thi-
electronic ballot?
This is using a technology that's used in the state and federal
And
elections.
they want to go electronic.
Right. So
I guess it's
we
gonna
do
be-
not have that for town elections.
Right, well, we don't have any
We have-
electronic
Right.
balloting.
Right.
And I just assume avoided it, we could
Yep.
possibly avoid it. So,
But you're right, we do have provisions for assisting people that need help in marking their ballots. This is just going to.
okay, and then we got an email from Phil Bennett at the architects for, Alva Architects for the police station. He's looking for, he's gonna be to see us on February 11th.
Yep. Okay.
And hopefully he's gonna bring in drawings and
Yep,
all of that sort of
that's the
thing.
goal, yep.
Um, Chief of Police had some concerns about thermal and moisture protection, specialties, appliances, electronic security and safety, Sally Port, and he's brought those forward to the architect.
What does,
Did you see this?
yes. What-
And
what
the response, I think, was that that's at a detail stage, they're not
TBA,
yet
TBA.
with
Yeah.
the design.
I have issues about the building too.
Okay, so bring those forward on the 11th when they come here, because I've got some issues as well. I think we can. All right, and then we had a letter from Gordon Hunt with regard to the encumbering of money on the library.
That was resolved, wasn't it?
No, this is not on the library, I'm sorry, on the French Cemetery. The $2,111,
They added it to their budget.
they added it.
Yeah, you're all set with that, thank you.
Okay, that's what this is all about here.
Yep.
Was there a permit, I guess is Jack Parsons still in there?
He's in there.
Jack Parsons, I had a question of whether or not there was a wetlands permit filed by the Snowmobile Association.
I don't do wetlands permits.
You don't?
It goes to conservation, but I believe they did.
All right, I thought they would have, because they got a DOT permit for crossing.
Right, yeah, they get a permit from the state to cross the road to a different location. I believe they get a wetlands permit, to build that bridge.
Which location?
This is the
Into Lang Pond Road.
Lang Pond Road.
Because I asked the question about crossing out of the parking lot down Bay Road. Has that been addressed?
They have a permit from the state to cross the road there.
Was
Yeah.
that the one, the one you were looking for? Did you
That-
see it?
That's the one I was looking for.
Right, okay, so they sent it to us.
Is it in the correspondence file?
I think that's what he was just looking at.
Well, that's Lang Pond Road.
Oh,
Can I look at it?
Yeah, of
Because I
course.
have some issues.
maybe that's not the one you were requesting.
That's not, must be this one, that one.
Okay, we've got, when are we next meeting with Donald Lane and the CDBG people?
I don't have one scheduled.
Okay, but that should be coming out pretty soon, I would think.
Did you, let's see. Right, so she said you already signed a form
Yeah, we did,
granting permission, so I think, and nobody had any changes to the application?
right.
Okay, great.
This is on Route 109 at junction of Bay Road. I have a question,
Oh, okay.
and I wanted to ask the police chief. As I understand it, it's illegal for snowmobiles to run down the travel portion of a highway, correct?
Yeah, pretty much.
And I was wondering, I have no problem temporarily this year granting it, but I'm thinking, what is it doing to the neighbors? I was down there the other day, a snowmobile went through and started to dig up the road and the gravel in the
So where are they
parking lot.
they're crossing at the parking lot now?
Yes, they used to go down the end of the parking lot and cross by the bridge, but there's some wetland down there.
So they don't go that way anymore?
Right, and
So how do they go across and then go on Old 109
yes,
to the beach and then go
Yes.
out to the lake? So they're traveling on town road at that point?
yes. I understand that legally, a snowmobile can cross as near perpendicular as possible. When I used to drive them. And I'm just thinking of the neighbors down there, noise and whatever. I have no problem making it conditional for 1 year.
Yeah, well, maybe we need to bring them in and have a meeting, figure out what we can do.
Right. And I am not anti-snowmobile. I see the work that they've done, on the other end, and it's great.
And it's not wetland on the road embankment. So we could bring them on the road embankment.
You can't cross the road there anymore because the town put up a chain link fence.
We put in a chain link fence? That's right, we did, didn't we?
We repaired one.
So
Well,
this-
it was there before, right?
Yes.
No, the snowmobile trail was there.
Did we extend it over where the snowmobile trail was?
I think if it goes there, there'd be a shed down
all right. Well,
there. Fran would know, but he's not here anymore.
Yeah.
that's okay. What do you have, Dan?
Oh, I just want checks.
Yep.
Are you not in yet?
Huh?
I'm not
No.
trying to rush you.
Yep.
Should I invite the snowmobile people here?
Well, not for this season, but probably by the end of the year, we should put a particular file together and get them in here in April.
April of
So we
this year?
can,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
figure
for
out-
example, they have a building up at the transfer station, and that's an access point with them, and it's worked well.
Okay, so I'll put a note to invite them in April. Okay.
Okay. I don't think there was any, that's pretty good. I looked it up the other day.
That's just read at your leisure stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion that we go into non-public, which is, they're trying to change this law as well, which is driving me crazy. To RSA 91 dash A colon 3, Roman numeral 2, parent I, or L,
Yeah.
for legal correspondence.
Second,
Aye.
Marcus, yes.
Would yes?
Yes.
I'll be yes. Okay.
We good?
They wanna do away with the roll call votes, and